are listening to Balloon Killers. I'm your host, Chrissy Riley, and each episode I'll be talking to someone from the world of cowboy mounted shooting, which is one of the most exciting and fastest growing equestrian sports. Hold on to your hats because it's going to get western. Hello everyone, welcome to episode 49 of Balloon Killers. That's right, we are one away from that monumental milestone episode of 50. And while I don't have all of my ducks in a row around how to celebrate just yet, you can rest assured that something pretty special is going to come your way for episode 50. I'm still riding the high of the Winter Championships. I came home from Arizona with a fire lit under my tail because how could I not after spending a week with such amazing shooters? My ladies level 2 class, the ladies are just incredible and are really making me want to step up my game. I got 49 out of 50 balloons, which was not too shabby. I was a little bummed about that one that I missed. It was the final balloon on the second stage and it was a slip hammer. But I recovered myself and I was clean for the rest of the time. So I was pretty happy with that. And Mr. Bear is finding new speeds all the time. This year, I'm really hoping that we can find some new gears so that we can be a little bit more competitive when it comes to the majors. But I am so blessed because he travels so well and he's trying so hard. Speaking of the Winter Championships, my guest for this episode was the overall cowboy at the Winter Championships this year. Danny Urness is originally from Canada and a dual citizen of the US and Canada, residing mainly in Arizona. He's most proud of his first win and buckle ever at the historic Tombstone, Arizona shoot put on by the Tombstone Ghost Riders. And he's also proud every time he wins a rifle or shotgun competition because, of course, long guns are the coolest. He's the creator of the Horse 45s on YouTube. It's a channel dedicated to the lifestyle, people, horses, and experience of mounted shooting. Well, hi, Danny. How you doing?
Hi, great, Chrissy. Thank you for having me on.
How is the weather there in Arizona?
Too hot. It's unseasonably hot in March. I don't know what's going on, but I dread the summer. I sure hope we get some cool air before the summer shows up.
And does your season wind down around now? Because I know that the mounted shooting season in Arizona kind of tends to be around the winter, right? To avoid the hotter months.
Yeah, it does in Arizona. With a couple exceptions, it usually winds down March, April timeframe. There's a shoot in June up in Flagstaff. Of course, there's, you know, the major event in Las Vegas that's not too far away. But yes, you're right for the most part. But, we keep riding, we keep practicing. You just have to do it early in the morning or late at
Hmm.
night.
Yeah. We get to that point in Colorado sometimes in the middle of the summer, but we've got a ways to go yet, although it is unseasonably warm here right now.
Yeah. Oh, that's no good. Yeah, it's especially Colorado. You guys should be covered in snow right now, I think.
Yeah, we did have some snow on Friday, but it's well and truly gone, and we do need it. We
Hmm.
need the moisture because
Yeah.
otherwise we're heading for some bad hay and we are heading for some wildfires this summer, which we definitely don't want.
No, no, no. There's still time left. Hopefully things can change in the mountains.
Yes. So, like I said, you're in Arizona, but which club do you shoot with?
I shoot with any number of clubs. We're so fortunate here in Arizona because we've got a handful of clubs. And in addition to that, we have a handful of organizations that put on shoots. And so, no one particular club. I just try to attend and shoot at any shoot that I possibly can, no matter who's putting it on. So, and there's, both CMSA and USMS represented here in Arizona. So there's a number of options, and that's just a very fortunate position to be in, given where we are because the sport started in Arizona, and it's a hub, and it is nice, and it's not lost on me how good that is.
Yeah, you have a good turnout for your shoots as well.
Yes, and especially in the wintertime, like you mentioned, because a lot of folks come down here for the weather and they're here to shoot and join the fun.
And that makes it more competitive, I think. It makes it harder to move up for sure. Like in Colorado, we can have a full, like just a full class. So as a two, we can have three twos pretty easily, which means
Mm.
we end up, because there's only three of us, say, we end up moving up. Maybe a little quicker than we should sometimes, but I know in Arizona, it's a lot harder to move up. I know those girls stay at levels one and two for a lot longer there.
Yes, I think you're right. It's interesting. A lot of competition, both from local and abroad, with people coming in, and it makes for great shoots, good competition. But yeah, some of those classes, especially like the ladies ones and twos, they can get quite large and very competitive and very talented, and it's very hard to
Yes,
win.
most definitely. And then when they come to the
Yeah,
majors, I'm like, oh my goodness, I should
I
be a
know.
level one, not a level two against these ladies.
Yes, no, I hear you on that. But I've found it to be a really, in the classes I've been able to be part of, I'm a men's four right now. And I've been able to be at a lot of shoots where the class is full, some where there's lots of competition too. And then it's actually less common that I don't have a full class. So pretty fortunate.
Hmm. You're a men's four, but you ride like your tail's on fire. I saw that at the Winter Championships.
Oh, thanks. You're kind. We had a good time there.
So how long have you been shooting?
I've been shooting for a little over 5 years now. And it's been just a really good, solid, I think, progression during that 5 years. I'm always trying to take on and learn how I can improve, and there's just a vast number of things to improve on. And it's been a good, steady pace. I've never been in a big hurry to try to move up. I've just always felt like I'm right where I belong because I'm learning so much. But
Hmm.
yeah, 5 years ago, it was actually during COVID
Huh.
um,
What an
time.
interesting time to get into the sport.
Yeah, it really was because, and what a refreshing time because I came into this sport and came from this world where things were just upside down,
Hmm.
and came to my very first shoot, and it was just a breath of fresh air. I mean, welcoming, people are happy to see you. It was just like nothing happened almost. Um, and that was, I mean, that was just a stark contrast to, the outside world, if you will. And it was really great. And it didn't have to be COVID for that to be the case, but the cool thing was even during that strange time, the people in the sport just stayed true to who they were.
Hmm. How did you get into the sport?
I got into the sport by actually contacting a person that I met through playing polo. I was playing polo before this,
Hmm.
and that person is a recognized mounted shooter, Dan Bird, because Dan Bird is quite a good polo player. He's, in fact, run polo organizations and polo cross organizations in the past. And he would play polo with us from time to time, and he was really good. And I got to know him a little bit. I got to know Jamie some, and I heard they did this shooting balloons thing, and didn't think too much of it probably for a couple of years. And I got to a point where I started thinking about that and wondering what it was like. So I did a little bit of research online, tried to learn little bit that I could, and then I called him and I asked him this question. I said, "How many horses do you need for that? Because in polo you need four." And I was actually getting a little bit tired of having to leg up and tack and wrap 16 legs every time I played polo. It's well worth it. It's a fun sport and it's awesome. But when he said you only need one, I was actually my interest perked up.
What's the transfer between polo and mounted shooting?
Well, I don't know. I'll tell you, my horses did really good. I sold a couple off and I kept two that I thought would take to it, and they did. And I think that polo was helpful to them because they've got polo mounts swinging around their heads, and they've got the crack of the ball going off right next to them, and yeah, there's a lot of activity, and they're very desensitized in that sense, I guess, or very used to chaos. And
Hmm.
when introduced to gunfire, it was no big deal. We did it, Dan walked me through it. We did it properly, and just to make sure that we didn't get ahead of ourselves, and it went really well. So um, they took to it right away. I found it just a lot of fun. I just really enjoyed it. I like the complexity of it, the patterns. It's a lot of variables that have to come together. And I was no expert on day one. My first shoot was a disaster. And I've just been trying to learn ever since.
The horses in polo, they have to be pretty nimble and of course pretty fast, which I think also transfers to mounted shooting, right? Like as we're going around patterns, as we're turning sort of tight circles, barrels, we want our horses to be nimble and quick on their feet. And I think that's pretty similar to polo too.
Yeah, I think you described it well because my number one Argentine polo pony was my number one mounted shooting pony.
Hmm.
And her name is Stella, and she just taught me the sport. Because she was so agile. It was like she picked it up immediately. I was very fortunate. So I had a really good mount on day one and a good backup horse too.
Hmm. So, what about your background in horses and shooting before mounted shooting? We've talked about polo. Was polo a long-standing sport for you before mounted shooting?
Not a long-standing sport. I actually didn't start polo till a little later, actually, because for years I didn't really have much anything to do with horses. I grew up riding quarter horses in quarter horse shows. So that's what we did. I grew up in Saskatchewan, up in Canada, and my mom and sister were avid horse showers, older sister, and I learned, just sort of the family hobby, which was going to quarter horse shows on the weekends and riding and doing, Western pleasure, English pleasure, trail, halter classes, things like that.
Hmm.
So I learned how to ride, but I was never really very good. I won some ribbons. I got, a couple trophies here and there, but I wasn't dedicated. And I stopped when I was a teenager. I think I lost interest. Other things, were out there, and I just stopped riding. When my mom finally came to me and said, "Listen, you embarrassed me at the last horse show. If you don't start practicing, you're not going to compete anymore." And I said, "Okay, okay, I'll practice." And then 2 weeks later, I came back to her and I said, "You know what? I think you're right. I think I'm going to take a hiatus." And so I did because I still wasn't practicing.
Hmm. What is it that you love about mounted shooting?
I think that the lifestyle, the Western lifestyle, number one, is great. And I think that's just, I don't know, I kind of grew up around that and I really relate to it at heart. And that's what was partially so refreshing when I first started mounted shooting, was getting back into that Western lifestyle. But then on top of that, our culture is so fantastic. It's so welcoming and so approachable. And as a new person, you feel you don't feel like you put anybody out, and you feel welcomed back the next time. And that's pretty attractive. And I feel like, you know, people either work hard at that and make it happen, or they ultimately, so to the point where they don't have to work hard at it. It's sort of natural because you go to these shoots, and it's very easy to be in a good mood the whole time.
Yeah, I agree. Now it's funny because I met you because you interviewed me first, and now I'm interviewing you. And you
Right.
interviewed me for your Horse 45's video channel. What inspired you to begin creating that?
Yeah, and thank you, by the way, for doing that. I'm very grateful for you and for others that have allowed me to interview them, and trusted me really to work with them on putting a video together as I started that out because it started in 2025. So it's
Hmm.
fairly new. Um, and I, going back to what I said earlier, when I first was researching mounted shooting and trying to learn a little bit about it, I found where people had posted their runs. I think I found maybe a CBS special that described what mounted shooting was, but I didn't see anything that explained or showed or demonstrated the lifestyle or the
Hmm.
culture or even really any much further than just these runs and how cool it is and
Hmm.
then a brief explanation of what it is. And so that maybe stuck with me a little bit. And I have a creative side, and my wife was telling me that I should find something creative to do as a bit of a hobby, and that propelled me partially. And I think it was just sort of putting one thing together. I started listening to some YouTube podcasts, and I thought, you know what, this could be interesting. And so I researched it for quite a while and just came up with that concept, and it's still developing. I'm still kind of working on it to progress its direction.
Hmm. It's a similar story to mine. I started off mounted shooting and loved podcasts, and everywhere I went, I would listen to a podcast, and I was desperately searching for a mounted shooting podcast. Like I wanted my mounted shooting fix when I wasn't mounted shooting, and I couldn't get it anywhere. So I realized I had to start my own podcast if I wanted to listen to stuff about mounted shooting. So it's a similar story. What's your background in video and video editing?
And I have to tell you that your podcast was also very encouraging to me because it started before this, and I was in the process of thinking through this and researching YouTube or whatever, and all of a sudden your podcast started, and it was very enlightening and very encouraging. And I thought, oh my gosh, yeah, this gal has put together something that's really interesting here. And I thought, well, I hope she doesn't mind if I continue and show up with a video. And so
Absolutely
it,
not. I love
yeah,
it.
I just found you very inspiring. So I think you helped also.
Well, thank you.
But
And I think the more media that we have about mounted shooting, the merrier.
yeah, I think you're right about that. I think there's a lot of education out there and I don't know, just knowledge about the sport that's missing. And I
Yes.
think these are media ways to get it out there.
Hmm.
To your question, I didn't have really any background in editing. I had background in film production. And I had been involved as a co-producer on some independent films over time. First one was in college. And my buddy and I, he's the filmmaker. And I was the business guy, if you will, because I'm a CPA by trade and I can help out on the business side. And it also, again, I get to explore my creative side doing that kind of thing too. But we made this 2 hour long feature film, and it was very low budget, but it was an action drama. And we ended up selling it to Blockbuster back when
Oh, wow.
When Blockbuster was a thing, right?
Uh-huh.
And so that was, we thought, a big achievement. And it allowed us to then attract other capital to make a bigger, better movie. And so we did. And later we went on this other odyssey of making this bigger, better movie. It was, a PG-13 action drama again, about two boys and their love of airplanes. And it was almost a Spielberg-esque adventure, coming of age, Stand By Me kind of movie.
Hmm.
And the script doctor that we hired to help us with that then hired me to help him make a couple other movies in LA. So I moved to LA for a little while, and we produced a couple independent features there. And again, he's the filmmaker. I'm the co-producer, head grunt essentially.
Hmm.
And I was really fortunate to get involved in that. And so I've had a little, I guess, exposure, and it allowed me to get an idea of how things would operate. And so as I come to this opportunity with Horse 45s on YouTube, it was sort of a natural fit. And it's instant distribution. That's usually the biggest issue with film or TV or media is
Yeah.
distribution, but this is instant distribution. And so it's just for me, a perfect fit. And you can grow something still. So there's lots of
Mhm.
opportunity if the content is solid. And that's the people in this sport, the culture, everything is so solid and it's so interesting that I think it's a wonderful topic. But um, I had to learn how to edit. And so that was one of the things I was first doing was trying to learn how to edit on this very basic software. That was didn't work real great. So then I started over again on a higher level software like iMovie,
Mhm.
and then that wouldn't do things. And then finally, I ended up on the best software there is, which I thought was way too expensive, but it wasn't. I thought it would be expensive, and it's actually very, very affordable.
Mhm.
It's called DaVinci Resolve, and that's what they use. They make Hollywood movies with that editing software today. It's enormously powerful, and I only know how to use about 5% of it, so I'm still learning.
I was going
Yeah.
to say, what was the learning curve like for that?
Yeah, it's still going on. Yeah, in fact,
Mhm.
I'm editing something right now and I'm completely stuck. I spent an afternoon trying to figure something out and I still haven't figured it out. So, lots of learning curve.
Dare I ask the titles of your previous movies? Would you
Oh, of
share that
course.
with us?
Oh, yeah, of course. Um, so the first one, it was during college, and that was the anti-racism film. It was the action drama I mentioned. We sold a Blockbuster. It's called Pure Race. Um, and so that went out on video, and we were able to sell it in distribution to different territories around the world. Um, and then the big feature that we're really proud of, it's called The Flyboys. And that was about a couple of 12-year-old boys. And these boys were right out of Hollywood. In fact, it's going back a ways, but the two boys at the beginning of Pearl Harbor, it's young Ben Affleck and young Josh Hartnett. They star in this movie we made. And at the
Oh,
time, they
wow.
were 12 and 13 years old. They were older, they were just like 8 year olds or something, or 7 year olds in that movie. But
Hmm.
we got them a little bit later and shot them. We had some other named actors out of LA. And that movie is distributed worldwide except for the US. There was never a US deal, so you can't watch it.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
but I'll show you if anybody ever wants one, I can show them a DVD. But there's the other two that we made in LA. One was called States of Grace, and it's a Christian film. And the other one is called Falling, and that was more of an art house production that would be for I don't know, just kind of the local college theater crowd. It was more of a redemption film, and uh, the one is on Amazon right now called States of Grace, and
Mhm.
Falling. It's in different territories, but we don't have it here.
Well, I know what I'm going to be watching tonight. And this is what I love about mounted shooting. See, you talked about what you love about mounted shooting being the lifestyle.
Hmm.
And of course, we always say the people. Everyone always says the people. But the people are just really interesting people. I don't know whether it's because people find mounted shooting at a different point in their lives, but there are so many fascinating people with really interesting stories in mounted shooting.
I agree. Yes, you're right about that, and it's fun to find them.
For sure. Now, your videos are usually around 10 minutes long, is that right?
It is. Yeah.
Yep, ish. And how long does it take to create something like that? Because there's a lot that goes into it. I've seen it's not just you interviewing people, you're splicing lots of different things together. It's a very complex and intricate process by the looks of it.
Yeah, it is. It takes time, and I've just put whatever time into it I need. I start out with a concept, and I'm playing with it and trying to put things together. And it takes a while. I don't know how many hours it would be, but I'm getting faster and I'm getting better. I actually sort of planned ahead because by the time I actually went live on the channel and started putting videos out, I had about 10 videos in the hopper already complete in the can, ready to go. Because
Hmm.
I knew that there'd be a certain pacing involved on a learning curve and I wouldn't be able to keep up. So now that sort of I'm up and running, I've been able to keep a pretty good cadence of regular postings of videos, and then I'll make a little short to go along with it that's really a little commercial or a trailer, and put that on Facebook and
Hmm.
Instagram, so hopefully that leads people to the full length 10-minute video on YouTube if they're interested in watching it. And yeah, no, it takes a fair bit of time. I don't have any help, but I would look at some point at having editing help, because the editing is the hardest part. It's the
Hmm.
most time consuming, and I've really tried to focus on getting the sound quality good, because I think that will, if the picture is okay and interesting, you have to have good sound to back it up, or else it just kind of falls on its face. So I don't always get there, but I try.
I get very excited every time I see a new trailer on Facebook or Instagram, and it seems like it's really growing for you. So, what are your plans for Horse 45s for the future?
Well, there are some exciting plans in the future. So I'll even take the opportunity now to kind of make an announcement in that regard. And
Yes.
that is that I'm planning and already producing a series that will take us through this year, following the top shooters in this sport, many of them, not all, but a lot of the top shooters in the sport leading up to and at the World Championship, and their process in getting into and winning worlds.
How exciting!
Yeah, I think so. And it came really together as part of a poll that I put on YouTube asking people, what do you want to see? And I gave some options. And the clear winner was people wanted to hear from and about top shooters in our sport. And
Hmm.
so that's what people want to see and hear. And I thought, well, no better way to talk to a top shooter than find out what their plans are and how they're gonna win worlds.
Most definitely, and I will really look forward to that. So, when is that going to start?
Well, it'll start with a preview. It'll start with an intro. And that intro is going to explain more about what I just said. And it'll give, the way I have it constructed so far is it'll give an outline of the sport, just so, I want this to be accessible to everybody. And I want it to explain, what mounted shooting even is. So the intro will be that, and it'll just kind of cover what we're going to do. And by the way, here's what this sport even is. And then after that, it'll start, okay, season one, episode one, or whatever you want to call it. And I think it's going to be fairly soon. I want to make it happen as quick as possible, because we've already got one major under our belt,
Hmm.
and that was the Queen Creek shoot. And so
Hmm.
it's time to get content from that out as soon as possible, so that we can have, a path forward to the next one in Lincoln, Nebraska.
And then sell it to Cowboy Channel so that we can get everybody on Cowboy Channel loving mounted shooting.
I find this sport so amazing and so fascinating that I don't see why there wouldn't be a lot of interest out there. And if it can be told right and it can be put together in an approachable way, um, I think it's fantastic. I think it's just a great sport, and the sport sells itself and it speaks for itself. You just have to show it. And so I hope that's what this can do. And there's I think a lot of opportunity out there, and I think growth is inevitable. It's just a matter of direction and time. But this sport's very attractive.
You mentioned earlier that you were a CPA and that you have worked on films and movies. What's your day job now, and how does that work with or against your work on Horse 45s and mounted shooting, which I know go hand in hand?
Yeah, no, I'm basically semi-retired, and so I still keep my CPA license active, but I have not been fully engaged for a while now. And so that allows me to spend more time doing what I'm doing, taking on a fairly intensive hobby like this, as well as trying to stay up to speed and progressing in the mounted shooting world as well. So yeah, I'm just trying to kind of balance everything, but I'm semi-retired, so that's what the basic answer to that question is.
These are the questions that I ask everybody that comes on the favorite shoot each year and why.
So I have a new favorite shoot, and it's any shoot in Canada. Because in 2025, I got to go to a shoot up in Saskatoon in Saskatchewan, and I had the best time. Those folks put on a fantastic, fantastic show. Um, they have a shoot during the day, they have a big showcase at night. Um, they were very good about getting people to it. It was very well attended. And what a great group of people, friendly and, like you'd expect.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, it was just a fantastic experience. And part of the reason I say my favorite shoot is because I want to support them and go back because in Canada, they have a really, really tough set of circumstances up there to make mounted shooting events happen at all. So it's just a different set of circumstances where it's tougher, you know. And I think that anything that American shooters can do to get up there and be at the events and help and support is really appreciated. And they do a fantastic job. It's really welcoming, very professional, great announcers, great setup, great organization, and great camaraderie. And I had learned something that I think is really important for people who do want to make it up there to go to a shoot. Um, and that is that Americans can bring their guns up there. All they have to do is fill out some paperwork and make a declaration of the border, and it's very easy. And I didn't know that. I actually thought it was prohibitive that
Hmm.
I'll never be able to do a shoot in Canada because, of the gun situation or something. And that's not the case. There's a process for it. And I have a video actually that explains that very thing about the Canadian process, and it's on my YouTube channel. And I went up there and I made a little video at their request about that event. And the video is called, I'll tell you,
Hmm.
um, it's called, where is it? It's called Mounted Shooting, Mounted Shooting Canadian Finals, Firepower, Family, and Friendly Competition. That's the name of the video.
I'll have
But
to like link that one in the show notes.
it explains how to take your guns across the border and use them for that event. And what I learned was, sadly, it's easier for an American to take their pistols up there and compete in a shoot than it is for a Canadian to even own pistols. So the more we can do to help them have successful shoots, the better. So anyway, I thought it was great, and I can't wait to go back.
Yeah, I saw that video actually. Was that somewhat of a homecoming for you? Because you said that you're from Canada, right?
Yes, I'm from Canada, so it was a little bit of a homecoming for me. Exactly. Yeah, it was really great from that perspective too.
What about your favorite win and why?
So that just happened. I just had my favorite win in Queen Creek. I was able to win overall cowboy. Um, and that's never happened before. That was new. That's a new accomplishment for me at a major. And so um, I was honored to be standing up there with the likes of Abby Esau, who won high overall award and overall cowgirl. And then I was right behind her with overall cowboy. So yeah, I mean that was really surreal to be able to be in that position.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I actually wear my belt buckle right now.
Nice. That's going to be a top one, a top choice to wear from now on, I would think.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I haven't taken it off yet. I wear it to bed. No, I'm just kidding.
What about your favorite pattern and why?
So, you know, I am taking the philosophy that I learned from your last guest, Dina Miller, and calling number 100 my favorite pattern because I have yet to shoot that pattern clean. It has been a challenge and it hasn't been very nice to me. And so I
Hmm.
think that the way to get a pattern to be nice to you is you better start being nice to it and being around it a lot more. And that's what I'm doing with pattern 100. There's 5 balloons that are each 15 feet apart, right up the center. And then there's 2 gates far away, but on either side of the rundown barrel, and then there's a balloon above the one rundown barrel. And so it's like a big T, but shooting those first five and getting over to that first gate and having a successful gun change in the middle is proven to be an opportunity. And so that's what I'm looking at it as. So that's my new favorite shoot or my new favorite run.
I think I'm going to borrow that too. It's proven to be an opportunity because I have a few of those. Actually, having said that, at the Winter Championships, so my favorite pattern is the wedge. I've said this many times. However, at the Cactus Classic, the second day, maybe the first day, I had an absolute dumpster fire of a wedge. I was so excited to see that that was the second pattern. I was like, I've got this one because this is my favorite pattern. I always do this one well. And I missed three. So now I'm a little bit afraid of the wedge. So I think the wedge is going to be my opportunity for a little while until I can get it right again and recover myself on that one.
Yes, I hear you. And you know what? All these patterns are so great. I mean, it's just that's one thing I like about the sport actually is the variety
Hmm.
because it's never the same and you get to challenge yourself endlessly on these patterns. And um certain horses will do better in certain patterns and yeah, I'll use a certain pair of guns in certain patterns and so it's just I don't know it's just a lot of variety and it's really neat I think both for the rider and the spectator I love the variability.
So you change your guns according to patterns? Is that what I
Yeah, I
heard you
have.
say?
So I use a pair of short strokes if I have to do, for instance, that pattern where
Hmm.
there's a lot of balloons really tight together, because I feel like I'm quicker with the hammer on my short strokes, and they have a short barrel. And then I have a set of full strokes that I use normally. It's kind of my normal set of guns, I guess, that I use. Um, and they're a longer barrel, and I just like the balance and the way they feel. So yeah, it just depends on the pattern.
That's so interesting. I've not heard that before.
Yeah, no, I mean it's not out of anything other than just it seems to work and make kind of makes sense.
Hmm.
I like not being too superstitious and burdened by worrying about having everything the same all the time. Like 'cause
Hmm.
sometimes I'll put, different bridles on. I always keep this. I found the bit that works for my horse, but maybe I'll have a different bridle or um I don't know, change things around here and there because I don't want to feel like if I get to a situation where something changes, I don't want to be freaked out about it. It's like no big deal. Just pull out your pistol and shoot the balloons. That's all you got to do.
I think I could do with learning from that because I am very superstitious, I would say, about having everything exactly the same. And then if something gets thrown off, like for example, I forgot my holsters at a couple of shoots ago. And
Oh.
I was very, very disorganized and disoriented because of it. Someone lent me their holsters and everything was just fine. But I couldn't get over it in my head. It was like, these are not my
Mm.
holsters. They don't fit the same. They don't feel the same. They're not my holsters. A gun's gonna fall out. And it was yeah, I'm not very good at adapting in that way. And so while I know holsters are just one of those things that people do have holsters that they like, I really could get better in other ways to help myself be a little bit better at adapting in those kind of situations and a little bit more flexible.
And you know what's interesting is I don't think we give ourselves enough credit for how adaptable and how quick we are on the fly out in the arena. Because how
Hmm.
many times does something not go right between balloon three and four, but you improvise and you pull it off, you know?
Hmm.
And so we're always improvising in this sport and we're always just, having to think fast and do something quick and hopefully it works because it didn't go according to plan originally. And
Hmm.
I think there's a real I don't know, pat on the back we ought to give ourselves when we accomplish those things.
Yeah, definitely. Who or what has been instrumental in your success? And this could be horses or people or clinics or anything at all, really.
Yeah, I guess I would tell you for me, it's some people and some horses because when I first got into the sport, Dan Bird taught me, and he's like, here's how you do the sport, and he was so fantastic to learn from. I still go to him whenever I can make it there, and he's training weekly, daily, and I'll show up whenever I can, frankly, and still take a lesson from him. And it's still always insightful. And right before this last major, I had a quick, well, not a quick, but I was able to get up there one day the week before the major, and it was very helpful. Um, Learning something new every time. I learned, I feel like I'm learning how to ride my horse so much better from Carrie Hirschberg. I started going to her over a year ago, and she has really helped me and just learning how to ride. And I've really got a long ways to go because I'll learn from her and then I'll watch a video of myself out in the pattern. I'll see myself doing a couple things maybe halfway right, but several things that still are a long ways off. But it's a process and you have to work at
Hmm.
it. But I just feel like I'm going on the right path. She's really helped me get quieter in the seat and provide more confidence to my horse in the pattern. And she's just a master, I think, at teaching. Um, I take clinics whenever the opportunity arises. So I remember I did a rifle and shotgun clinic with Rob Boucher and Cecil Berry a while back, and that was super helpful because I was switching from split reins to one rein, a barrel rein essentially
Hmm.
for shotgun and rifle, and Cecil in particular really helped me figure that out and what to do when. Okay, at this point on the barrel turn, at this point on the number six balloon, at this point on the number five balloon, here's what works and here's what can work, and then you adapt it to your own style.
Hmm.
Really helpful. And then I was fortunate to take a clinic from JD Casperson recently, and super insightful. All these people just have their own brand of how they teach and how they do things, and I just try to learn from whoever I can. And
Hmm.
that includes people at all levels, frankly. So in polo once I had a friend come up to me, and he's way better than I am, and he said, "How did I do out there? What do you think I could improve on?" And I was like, "Why are you asking me? You're way better at this than I am." But he was very sincere. And I learned from that. You need to learn from everybody around you because you can. I think there's just
Hmm.
so much to absorb if you let yourself. So I just try to take that philosophy.
I really appreciate that about you. I think you're very humble about how amazing you are. I really look up to you as a mounted shooter. I think you're an incredible shooter. And
Wow,
I
thank
remember
you.
watching you. I was working at Winters, working with it on my phone in the trailer, and I watched you. You got a record at one point, and I was like, he's got the fastest time, yay! And I love being able to support the shooters that I know and I've met along the way. And yeah, I just appreciate your approach so much.
Well, thank you. And I'll tell you who got that record was my horse because he is amazing. And that's the other part of that question that you asked. I was able to acquire him a couple of years ago from Marcus Hoffer up in Canada. And he was Marcus's number one horse. And Marcus is a heck of a rider and a heck of a trainer. And I was looking for a horse because I had a horse. My main horse at that time was Mocha. And Mocha is the kind of horse that'll get me kind of to level three, maybe through the level three, and he did. Um, but he really I needed to step up from there. And I think with Striker, who I got from Marcus, I moved up like three, three jumps because man, the first time I rode that horse, I went, well, the first pattern I rode on him, I told him to turn right around the barrel, and I almost fell off because it was like he was on rails and he just boom, right degree angle, just hard right.
Hmm.
And I came out of the saddle and had to grab the horn and pull myself back in to not fall on the ground. And he is just that agile. He's cutting horse bred.
Hmm.
His ancestors, his pedigree is just the who's who of cutting horses.
Hmm.
And man, am I fortunate to have that horse. So I wouldn't be anywhere near where I'm at without him and him teaching me the sport because he knows it. He knows the sport. He even tells me when we're out there how to run patterns. So he's amazing. And then my backup, Mocha, he's really, really good. He's still my old polo pony.
Hmm.
And he actually is owned by my daughter. My daughter bought him with her babysitting money back when she was a kid. So he's part of the family. And so I ride him now because, we can't sell him.
Hmm.
Um, but I still use him for rifle and cavalry and things. But yeah, the people, the horses, all just have taught me so much.
You had an exciting 2025 with getting Horse 45s really off the ground and going. What are you excited about in 2026 besides your announcement about your new series?
So I think that I'm excited. I can't I can't come up with a really good answer for you on 2026, but I think the next 10 years are really interesting to me.
The long game, the long game.
I think it's really going to be interesting to see where the sport goes in the next 10 years. It's only a little over
Mhm.
30 years old. And I don't know, I just feel like I feel like it's the best kept secret in horse sports. And um, yeah, once it gets more known, there's just a lot of credibility that will come to the sport through entities and people that probably start to become associated with it. And it'll be really interesting to see how the sport develops through that. And I think under wise management, it'll flourish and it'll do really well. And the people will be the reason that's the case ultimately. Um, so I don't know. I don't know what that is. I wish I knew the answer, but I am
Hmm.
excited for the sport over the next 10 years. I think there's a lot of cool things that are gonna gonna happen that we can't even really think of right now.
Yeah, big changes ahead for sure, especially with the new leadership that I'm really excited about too. Well, thank you so much for your time today. I have really enjoyed talking to you, learning more about Horse 45s. I will make sure that I post some of those videos that you reference so that if people are looking for those videos specifically, they can find them quickly, and I'll put those in the show notes.
Thank you. That is so kind. I really appreciate the opportunity to be on here today. And thanks for all you do for the sport. It's really incredible. And like everybody, I love listening to Balloon Killers on the way to the shoot.
Thanks so much, Danny. I am very excited about what's going to come out of Horse 45s this year. Some of you might have noticed that this past week I announced that I'm going to be producing a new mounted shooting 101 podcast called The Ingate. It's going to be focused on beginners and people who are considering getting into the sport. The episodes are going to be no more than 5 to 10 minutes, and each one will answer a frequently asked question. And I will be interviewing experts to get those answers. And essentially, it will form a menu of frequently asked questions that beginners can refer to get the answers that they need. If you can think of any questions that you frequently get asked, or you know of some experts who might be able to answer some of those questions, our sport is full of them, please do reach out and let me know on balloonkillers@gmail.com. This past weekend, you will likely have heard that one of our mounted shooting families, the Lipham family, lost a very special horse to them, Bucket, and they also incurred veterinary expenses for the care of other horses who were in the trailer at the time of the accident. If you haven't yet donated to the GoFundMe, please consider either sharing it or donating yourself. I will post the link to that GoFundMe in the show notes. If there are balloon killers that you would like to hear interviewed, please email me on balloonkillers@gmail.com. That's balloonkillers, all one word, @gmail.com.